Hey everyone, what's going on? Lauren Sisler here with AL.com. We are cruising into week 6. This is your week 6 edition of Auburn Head to Head, brought to you by Keep Alabama Beautiful. Hanging out with Cole Cubelic here. He's with WJOX. Greg McElroy in the morning, 7 to 10 a.m. You can catch him there. Also on SEC Network, doing all sorts of cool things. I saw last week you were like jumping off a platform. Was that really high, by the way?
10 meters.
I mean, that you don't realize it, but then like looking down, it's like, whoa.
Oh, it's up there. It was up there.
Little pencil cannonball. I didn't know if you were going to try to flip or do something crazy.
No.
I'm glad you went the direction that you did. You played it safe, even though it wasn't that safe. Okay, so Cole Cubelic hanging out. So let's get into this thing as Auburn welcomes the number 2 Georgia Bulldogs to Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Oh, let's go now. Oh, oh, now, now. Oh, let's go now. Oh, can't stop us. Oh, let's go now. Oh, oh, now, now. Oh.
Okay, so Cole, it's worth mentioning, and I don't want to date you too much, but we know that Auburn hasn't won in Death Valley since 1999, and oh, by the way, you were the last class to win in Death Valley, so I guess we do the math that
It's been a minute since I played football. Yeah, exactly.
It's been a minute.
That's a big hurdle. I think it's a big obstacle for Brian Harsin, for this team, and for the program. More so the program, and then maybe Harsin, and then this particular team, because this team had no real impact. Most of these guys had nothing to do with that streak going on as long as it did. But it's just good that that's not a distraction that the players, the team, people involved with the program will have to hear about moving forward. So I think it's fantastic. It's phenomenal. I know a lot of the guys that are in a lot of those photos with me, we're all tired of talking about them, hearing about them, having them show up every 2 years, put it to bed, rest in peace, cigar game. It was fun while it lasted. It's over. On to the next one.
On to the next one, and I know a big one for Bo Nix. Obviously, the guy that 2 weeks ago got benched in the second half against Georgia State. He comes out. Some magic moments from him. I mean, it's like Bo Nix, Houdini. I don't know who it was, but it was pretty incredible stuff. Watching him go out there, make plays, link up with his key receivers, and do some incredible things when it counted the most. Of course, the running game was a little lackluster there until, of course, the fourth quarter when they were able to pick up some yardage there. So with that being said, looking at this matchup, Auburn versus number 2 Georgia, this is going to be a tough one because this Georgia defense tops in the country. I mean, this is a team that literally has given up 16 points all season long, fewest in the country. 9 turnovers, 1 touchdown. That's sort of the ratio right now. Like, holy moly, are you kidding me? So they're going to have their hands absolutely full. When you look at the emotion of this game, obviously a much-needed win. They go in there and they get it done. They come back to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Now you go up against the number 2 team in the country. What are some of the biggest things that stand out to you? Because, again, this Georgia defense is strong. So let's just start on that side of the ball. Auburn offense versus Georgia defense, the key matchup there.
You got to just find a way to create. And I thought Mike Boa did a really nice job last week of redesigning the run game. What's Bo Nix's best attribute? Maybe outside of his toughness, it's his mobility. And they designed a plan to utilize that and allow him to take that and gain positive yards on a regular basis. You saw some bootlegs, you saw some rollouts, some sprint outs, and then you saw some things where he had options to keep the football or hand the football off where he can obviously utilize his legs and be able to pick up yards. Now, some of the stuff back and forth, the zigzag, the makeup stuff, I mean, he can ad-lib and be very successful with it. That's not drawn up, but something that he obviously added to that game Saturday night in Baton Rouge. So one thing that I saw, different formations. You saw a lot of misdirection against LSU. So there were plays where your backside tackle and your tight end to that side would pull around, but then the run play would end up going opposite of where that was. Just visual deception for the defense. That's going to have to be something I think you at least attempt against this Georgia defense. They don't seem as susceptible to it as LSU did because that's really what Chip Kelly did in week 1 for UCLA that gave LSU a lot of problems. Saw some of that game plan in what Bobo did last week against LSU. Protection's going to be an issue. You're going to have backs and tight ends that stay in on protection because that offensive line's not going to be able to hold up. So you got to get the ball out quickly. You got to find a way to get the ball into your playmakers' hands. Tank Bigsby's got to be a bigger part of the plan.
Yep.
If that means catching the football, get it out to space and with Shivers, let him try to create, make some plays. Jarquez Hunter's got to be a part of the game plan, but it can't just be handing the football off to those guys because this defense is too good for that. They're too sound, too big, too strong, too athletic, too fast to have some sort of a normal plan that's just going to be successful. So I think the defense has got to be a big part of the offensive success in this game as well.
Yeah.
They've got to minimize things, give good field position, try to help maintain some of the momentum, and just put Auburn in good spots to where if they do want to take a few shots, if they do get some one-on-ones, it's not going to really work against them based on where they are on the field or what the situation is.
Yeah, and I'd really like to see Bo Nix take that next step. Obviously, one of the biggest knocks on him, not being able to go on the road and perform and play. And he obviously proved the naysayers wrong in this one. But can he continue with the consistency? Can he find ways to win? Can he find ways to get the ball down to his playmakers? Okay, you go to the defensive side of the football. You're without your leading pass rusher in TD Moultrie. You're without Owen Papo, and they still go out there and get the job done, limiting LSU to 29 yards on the ground. Pretty impressive performance there, getting some pressure there on Max Johnson. And here's the thing. So with that being said, obviously they got off to a slow start, especially in the secondary. I mean, LSU lit them up on that opening drive, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be an incredibly long night. What were some of the key adjustments that in your mind you saw that you said, okay, like this Auburn defense has got something going and could, carry them into this week against a much stronger Georgia offense?
Two things stick out first and foremost about the plan. One, Romello Height off the edge. I feel like he really gives him a little extra juice. He's a little more twitchy off the edge. He can sort of bend and get to that pocket and maybe help collapse the pocket and affect the quarterback a little bit more. And then moving Colby Wooten around inside, outside. 25's got to be a guy that lines up over center, over guard, over tackle because he can win those one-on-ones. He has the quickness along with the size to be able to hold up, but also give you some of that penetration and give you some of those wins. So those are two things that stuck out initially. And then I thought Derek Mason just kind of backed off a little bit. He said, listen, we'll play 3 down. We'll give you a lighter run box and basically just make you beat us in the intermediate stuff. Now, Max Johnson found a few of those early. Couple extra adjustments. You saw him continue to try to attack down the field. It wasn't as successful, and they gave LSU a lot of run looks. LSU decided not to take a lot of those run looks. So then you just really win on scheme because if I'm going to give you something and you don't take it, that's a win for us. So I thought that Auburn's defense won a lot by design of what they showed, and LSU essentially didn't want to try to take advantage of it. So you're not going to get that this week. It's going to have to be add to the box, play bigger bodies, be more physical because this Georgia offensive line can't push you around, and they're going to try to. Now Darnell Washington's back at tight end, 6'7", 280. Brock Bowers having a heck of a season. Fitzpatrick's back healthy at tight end as well. So the bonus bigs are there for Georgia. So you have to find different guys that you're going to be able to add up front that are going to be able to potentially hold up and still allow those linebackers to be able to run free and make plays.
Yeah, they got some dudes, to say the least. Got some dudes. JT Daniels, Georgia's starting quarterback coming into the season, still dealing with, I guess, a lat oblique injury on the right side. I know that he has been practicing, but he hasn't been throwing in practice at this point. That's what Kirby Smart said.
Can I stop right there and just ask a quick question? If you're a quarterback and you can't throw, can you practice?
That's a good question. The answer, I guess you can practice practicing.
I mean, you take snaps and hand off, but
Yeah. You're not, yeah.
it's like if somebody told me you're a center and you can't snap, but you're going to go practice, but you can't snap. Can I practice?
Yeah, you're really just showing up, I guess, essentially. Yeah, you make a good
Are you
point.
attending or are you practicing? Sorry, that's a total sidebar.
So
but
instead
I
of like, this
I
is
heard
practice,
Kirby say that and it
this
really
is
threw me
practice,
off. He's
or-
practicing, but he can't throw.
Yeah.
He's a quarterback.
This is practice or this is attending. This is attending. That's where we're
There are a
going.
lot
This
of
is
things
attending.
mentally that a quarterback can go through. Obviously, you can take snaps, you can hand the ball off, you can make checks, you can identify defense, but if you can't throw, are you really practicing
Yeah.
as a quarterback? I don't. Again, we're talking about practice.
We're talking about practice. So Stetson Bennett, likely the guy this week would be my guess. He passed for only 72 yards last week against Arkansas. Of course, Georgia tore up Arkansas. Disappointing performance. I thought that Arkansas was going to show us a lot more than they did. Unfortunately, it did not. With that being said, biggest keys with Stetson Bennett now at quarterback versus JT Daniels. If you're game planning this week, if you are Derek Mason there.
First and foremost is put the game in his hands.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, if you're able to do that, can you find a way to make him uncomfortable? If it's me and I do find a way to do that, I want to keep him in the pocket, because you've seen a couple of games where batted balls become an issue, him trying to have to throw over the line of scrimmage, defensive lineman becomes a little bit of an issue. But the key there, Lauren, is can you put the game in his hands, which essentially means taking away the run and taking away some of the quick throws. And that's very difficult to do against this football team because they're talented out of the backfield, talented at tight end, pretty good at receiver. They're good up. The offensive line's gotten better the last 2 weeks. They weren't great early, but they've gotten better the last 2 weeks. So that's a much more difficult task to do than just saying, hey, make the quarterback beat you. But if you can get him in the pocket and you can force him to stay there and try to beat you, I think with what Auburn has in the secondary and at linebacker, you do give yourself a much better chance of being successful.
All right, let's drop down. We got the prediction. What's your prediction for this one? Back home, Jordan-Hare Stadium, number 2 versus Auburn. What is that, a 2:30 kickoff? Yes, 2:30.
I'm going to go 28-14 Georgia.
Ooh, you're going with a little bit of a lower score than I thought. Okay, 28.
I think being at home helps.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think the secondary that Auburn brings, linebackers Auburn brings, are going to help. I think the defensive line will struggle in this game, but I do think they're going to be able to add a little bit more to be able to try to help, and they're not going to take that 3-man look that Barry Odom tried to run last week into this week because they're going to see clearly on film that didn't work.
Yeah. I got 35-17. Again, I think it's going to be all about explosives, be able to run the football, hit some of those explosives, generate some confidence and energy earlier. And Derek Hall talked about it this week. He's talked about it. We got to play better in the fourth quarter. Well, I think against this Georgia team, you better play good in all 4 quarters.
Talking a little trash on the field? Yeah, we get it. Trashing the state with litter? That's terrible. Keep it clean. Keep Alabama beautiful.
It's guaranteed that I die a legend. Yeah, son, God, homie, I'm reverend. Preach, just protecting my investment.